Hi, and welcome to the Spawdcast. My name's Carrie Hyde, and I'm your host, and I'm your pet's life coach. And I'm sitting here today with a friend of mine who used to be a client of mine, and we just found so much passion about what we do and what we just learned so much about each other. And so this is Karen Mercandati. Karen,
Hi.
welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I brought Karen on because, not just because she's a huge pet lover, but because the topic that we're going to be talking about today is something that Karen and I, it's so dear. Like, I am going to tear up. I knew I wouldn't get through this without talking about how passionate I am about the food that goes in your pet's mouth, and where it comes from and how it's made. And so when I meet people like Karen and our guest, who I'm going to introduce you to in a second, I am so amazingly proud that we have this group of people that I can sit on a couch with and I can Skype with that are speaking up and speaking out.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, a lot of times that comes through us losing a pet that gets us to the point where we have to speak up and speak out about it. And I'm sure most of our listeners have lost pets in their lives, but sometimes when we lose pets that are unnecessarily a loss, the pain that we can feel from that is so unbelievably deep. And so we're going to get through this, and I'm going to introduce to you someone who I met through Facebook, but I've followed her for so long and am so amazed at her story, and I know you're going to be amazed at her story as well. So with no further ado, I would like to have you meet Kelly Bone. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Good. How are you, Carrie? Nice to meet you, Karen.
Nice to meet you as well.
Doing well. Kelly heads up a Facebook page called Saving Pets One Pet at a Time. So tell us a little bit, Kelly, how did that come about? Let's talk a little bit about how you started Saving Pets One Pet at a Time.
Okay. Well, I had a dog named Duncan, and he was a little Lhasa Bichon, and he was a service dog for me. I had seizures and I had a heart problem, and so he was a service dog. So he was a service dog for me for 12 out of the 13 years that I had him.
Wow.
He was an amazing little dog. As you can imagine, being a service dog, he was extremely well trained.
Yeah.
He was so well trained that he could actually jump up on the sofa, knock the phone off the hook, and he could dial the button for me to call 911 for me, so that if I was having a seizure.
Wow.
He was amazing. So what happened was, Duncan was 13. For 12 out of the 13 years that he was alive, he ate science diet dog food, and he was very healthy. For like 2 years, he had a bout with pancreatitis, but then he didn't have any more. We got it corrected, and he was doing great. And all of a sudden, I noticed that he wasn't wanting to eat his food, and he was pushing away from his food all the time. And so then the doctor switched him to a different science diet, and he didn't want to eat that science diet. And then it was going on for like 2 weeks. And then I'd put it down, and he'd just look at me like, Mom, really, I don't want to eat this, no. And I'm like, and I just thought Duncan was pretty spoiled. And I thought, you know what, he's just being finicky. And this is what the vet told me is best for dogs with pancreatitis. So I have to keep him on this food. So I just said, Duncan, tough love. I'm too much of a softie. When you're hungry, you'll eat it. So he would go off and on, and he would eat it a little bit, and then he'd keep, giving me a hard time, and then he'd go eat it. And then all of a sudden we noticed he started drooling, and then he started being extremely lethargic. And then about 10 days before he passed away, he was hiding from us. And he would go, and he wouldn't want to be with me, which is really unusual.
Oh, no.
And so we thought, my husband said, he goes, I wonder if it's just he's getting older and he's just dying or what. He said, maybe this is normal. This is the way they pull away. And so, and I can understand that if it's just the normal dying process, that's no problem.
Sure.
But then all of a sudden, one day we woke up and he was vomiting like I've never seen him vomit before. And he could not, his bowels were totally loose and they were running all over the place. He was just squirting everywhere. And then he was trembling really bad. and then he was falling over on his side. He had lost his balance.
Oh my God,
And
I
so
can't
we took him to the,
imagine
yeah,
watching that.
yeah.
So,
So we took him to the vet.
I was going to say before because I don't want to miss this point, when you have an animal who can smell the chemicals in your body changing for when you have a seizure,
Yes.
right? So I
Right.
often tell my clients this: if your pets they're telling you they can smell something different in their food, I shouldn't say, I don't want to put the blame on you at all, but we often
Right.
think, oh, when you're hungry, you'll just eat it.
Right.
But we forget and you had a dog who had an enormous sense of smell in order to smell your
Right.
seizures. So he was telling you from the beginning,
Right.
this is a bad idea.
Something's wrong with this food.
Exactly.
Something's
Yes.
wrong. Something's wrong.
Exactly.
So I want to make the point to our listeners that please listen to your pets, because they have a sense of smell that is really great. And sometimes they're also telling you that maybe they've had too much protein in their diet. They've already had too much protein for today. And so maybe it's not that there's something wrong with the food, but maybe it's just I need to back off of eating a little bit, and we need to respect that with our pets.
I keep telling people, if you have an ingredient list and it's 40 ingredients long and you can't figure out what any of them are,
Right.
it's not good. There was no money I wouldn't have spent on Duncan.
Kelly, Duncan is going to save so many lives.
Yes.
So while Duncan lost his life, he's on the forefront of something that we need, and he's saving lives, and he's doing it through your voice.